I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. Maybe I need to get this off my chest, or maybe I just want someone to tell me I'm not crazy. Either way, I'll start from the beginning. It's easier to explain how I got here when I lay out the facts. I met her about 3 years ago. Her name's Lisa. She's smart, beautiful, charming, the kind of girl who makes you think you've hit the jackpot. We moved in together after about a year. Everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. We had plans, dreams, little inside jokes that made me feel like I'd finally found someone who understood me. I never saw any warning signs, at least not at first. Then came the wedding plans. We wanted a small ceremony, just close friends, a quiet celebration. I was excited, genuinely happy. My best friend Mike was supposed to be my best man. We known each other for years, and I trusted him with my life. The wedding was set for the weekend after my bachelor party, which was happening in Mexico. I'd been looking forward to it for months. The bachelor party was a mess of booze, strippers, and late-night stories. Honestly, I wasn't paying much attention to anything else. I had my friends, good music, and enough tequila to make the night blur into a happy memory. I was thousands of miles away from home, physically and emotionally, yet I still felt a weird sense of peace. Or maybe just numbness. I didn't think about Lisa much that night. I kept my eyes on my drink, trying to drown the nagging feeling that something was off. When I finally got back, I was eager to see her. I know it sounds stupid now, but I was eager to re-establish normalcy. That's when I noticed the little things. A missed call, a text that didn't sit right. I brushed it off, thinking she was just busy or tired. But then I found her phone. And that's when shock hit me like a punch to the gut. There were messages, hidden behind a password, of course. I used her fingerprint to unlock her phone. I don't know what I expected, but what I saw chilled me. It was a conversation, not just a flirtatious one, but something more explicit. She'd been seeing someone else, someone. I trusted, her brother's best friend. And the worst part, the timing. While I was on the other side of the world, she was sneaking around with him. During my bachelor party, of all things. That's when my stomach dropped and I knew everything was a lie. I felt numb for days. The world around me seemed to blur and my hands trembled every time I looked at her. I confronted her, of course. I remember the way her face twisted with guilt, her eyes filled with tears. "It was just a mistake," she said, voice trembling. "It meant nothing." But I knew better. I saw the evidence, screenshots, texts, photos. She'd saved pictures of him, of them together in bed, whispering things I won't repeat. The physical proof was right there, staring at me. It was real, and it shattered what little trust I had left. That's when I realized I needed to do something. I couldn't just brush this under the rug. I needed a plan, something calculated, precise. Because revenge, I decided, was the only way to regain my dignity. I didn't want her to think she could get away with it. I wanted her to feel what I felt: betrayal, anger, humiliation. So I started working on my plan. It took days to gather everything: her phone, her emails, even her social media accounts. I stayed quiet, acting normal around her, but inside I was boiling. I needed her to believe she was still safe, that she'd gotten away with it. That's when I realized I'd have to play her game, but turn it against her. I'll tell you what I did next, but for now, I want you to think about this. How do you trust someone after they've lied so completely? And what's the line between revenge and just damage control? I guess I'll find out soon enough. The next few days were a blur of planning and simmering rage. I kept my cool around her, acting like everything was normal, but inside I was mapping out every move. I needed to make her feel the same chaos she'd caused me, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. I couldn't afford to slip up and ruin everything before I had my plans in place. It started with small things: changing her phone password, deleting certain messages I'd found, and installing a tracking app on her phone without her knowing. I didn't want her to suspect, not yet. I was watching her every move like a predator studying its prey. The physical evidence was enough to cripple her if I played it right. I had photos, screen recordings, even a few recordings of her sneaking around behind my back. One night I found her in bed, scrolling through her phone. Her face was illuminated by the screen's glow, eyes flickering with guilt. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who are you texting?" I asked, trying to sound casual but feeling every ounce of fury tighten my throat. She froze, then looked up, her eyes darting away. "Just some friends," she whispered, voice shaky. "Really? Friends who send you pictures of themselves in bed with someone else?" I asked, voice low but sharp. Her eyes widened and she immediately tried to delete the messages, but I'd already saved screenshots. I pulled out my phone and showed her the proof. Her face crumpled. "It's not what you think," she said, voice cracking. "It was a stupid mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen." I clenched my fists, feeling my palms sweat. "You lied about everything, to me, to everyone. You betrayed me during my bachelor party while I was thousands of miles away. How could you?" She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I was lonely. I was drunk. I didn't think you'd find out." That was the moment I decided she needed to feel some of what I felt. I told her I had a plan, but I wouldn't reveal it yet. Instead, I told her she needed to pack her bags. She begged, pleaded, even promised she'd fix everything, but I knew better. There was no fixing this. That night I spent hours poring over every detail, crafting the perfect revenge plan. I wanted her to believe she'd escaped, that she was still in control, but I was already setting the trap. It involved a fake email account, some convincing messages, and a bit of acting on my part. I wanted her to think she was still the one calling shots, while I was the one pulling the strings. I knew her weak spots, her vanity, her need for control, and I was going to exploit them. I'd send her cryptic messages, make her think someone was watching her. I even bought a burner phone to make it all more convincing. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about making her see what she'd done and how it felt to be powerless. By the time I finished my plan, my heart was pounding. I could feel the adrenaline rush through me. I was ready. The pieces were in motion. I knew she'd try to deny everything, but I had her cornered. All I had to do now was wait. And wait I did. Every minute felt like an hour. I kept my phone closed, watching for signs of her reacting. Then, just as I predicted, she took the bait. An ambiguous message appeared in her inbox, and her reaction was priceless, her hands trembling, her face pale. She looked at me, eyes wide with shock. "Who is this?" she asked, voice trembling. I just smiled and said, "That's for you to find out." That's when I realized I had her right where I wanted her. The game was on, and she'd soon see that I was not the fool she thought I was. I was ready to make her regret every lie, every betrayal. But what I didn't tell her was that I had one last move, that I was about to turn the tables completely. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her choices, and she was about to get a taste of what real revenge feels like. The moment she saw the message on her phone, her entire body stiffened. Her eyes darted back and forth, like she was trying to find an escape route in her head. Her breath hitched, and for a second I thought she might break down completely. But instead she looked at me, her face a mask of shock and guilt. "Who sent that?" she whispered, voice trembling so badly it was almost inaudible. I kept my face cold, my arms crossed. "That's not my concern right now. Your next move is what matters." I watched her, enjoying the flicker of desperation that crossed her face. I wanted her to feel hunted, cornered, helpless, all the things I'd been feeling for days. She hesitated, then finally whispered, "It's probably just someone messing around, someone trying to scare me." "Really?" I asked, voice sharp. "Because that message says otherwise. It's pretty specific, isn't it? Almost like someone been watching you." Her eyes flickered with panic. She tried to delete the message, but I'd already saved a screenshot. I kept the image on my phone just in case I needed it later. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her hair and looked around like she was searching for an exit. "I don't know who this is," she said softly. "I swear I don't." I stepped closer, voice low and steady. "You lied about everything, Lisa. About where you were, who you were with. You even lied about who you're talking to right now." She looked down, silent for a long moment. Then with a shaky voice she said, "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was weak, okay? I got caught up in everything. I slipped up. Please just stop," I interrupted sharply. "You're not getting out of this that easy. I've seen enough. I've got proof. And you know what? I'm done trusting you. If you think you can lie your way out of this, you're dead wrong." Her face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "I love you. Please don't do this." I felt my stomach tighten. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I'd given her everything, my time, my trust, my future, and she'd thrown it all away in a matter of weeks. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her, pack your bags, you're leaving tonight. She begged, pleaded, even promised she'd make it right, but I knew better. This wasn't about fixing what was broken. It was about making her realize she lost something irreplaceable. I'd already decided to enact my plan, one I'd spent days preparing. It was subtle, calculated, and cruel enough to make her regret every lie. I sat back in my chair, watching her collapse into tears. "You're not just leaving," I said quietly. "You're going to wish you never crossed me." That night, I stayed up most of the remaining hours doing the final touches. I set up a fake email account, carefully crafted messages, and scheduled them to go out at specific times. I wanted her to feel watched, paranoid, like the walls were closing in. It was all about control now, and making her see she'd lost hers. When dawn finally broke, I handed her a small bag with essentials and looked her straight in the eyes. "Goodbye, Lisa." I didn't bother with pleasantries. Instead, I handed her the keys to her apartment and told her to leave. She looked at me like I'd punched her in the gut, but I didn't care. I'd already won this round. As she packed her things, I stood by the door, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anger. I'd done what I set out to do: expose her, humiliate her, and cut her loose. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. There was more coming. And as she finally shut the door behind her, I felt the weight lift just a little. I'd taken back my control, even if just for now. The pain still lingered, but I'd make sure she remembered. Revenge isn't just about hurting someone. It's about reclaiming your dignity when everything's fallen apart. And now I was on my way to doing just that. The silence after she left was almost deafening. I stood there in the empty apartment, feeling the emptiness settle over me like a thick fog. My hands were still trembling from the adrenaline, and my heart was pounding so loud I thought it might burst out of my chest. I'd done it. I'd finally taken control, turned her world upside down, and then watched her walk away. But the victory felt hollow, coated with a bitter taste of what I'd lost. Over the next few days, I kept busy, but the plan I had meticulously crafted kept lingering in my mind. I pressed every button I could to make her paranoid, to make her feel hunted the way I felt. I set up the email account, sent the first cryptic message, and waited. The anticipation made my stomach churn, but I told myself I needed to stay patient. This wasn't about impulsiveness anymore. It was about making her feel powerless, just like I had. Sure enough, within hours, she responded. The message was vague but suggestive enough to keep her guessing. I watched her reaction from a fake account I'd created, hidden behind a VPN. Her eyes widened in disbelief, her fingers trembling as she read the message. I could almost hear her heartbeat through the screen. That was exactly what I wanted, to keep her on edge, to make her doubt everything. She started questioning her surroundings, checking her phone obsessively, asking her friends if they knew anything. I loved how fragile she'd become. All her lies, all her manipulations, gone in a flash. I kept feeding her little clues, each one more unsettling than the last. It was simple, really. Just enough to make her paranoid, but not enough to give her an escape. One day, I decided to escalate. I sent an email pretending to be someone from her past, someone who knew about her affair, someone who claimed to have proof. The message read, "I know what you did. You can't hide from the truth. I have everything documented." Her reaction was priceless. She called me, frantic, voice trembling, begging me to tell her it wasn't true. "Who is this?" she demanded. "Tell me right now." I played it cool. "That's not important. What matters is you know I'm watching. You lied and betrayed me. You're not getting away with it." Her voice cracked. "Please, it's not true. I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I wanted to scream at her, but I held back. It was better this way, keeping her guessing, making her think she was losing control. That's when I started planning the final blow. I decided to confront her with undeniable proof, something she couldn't deny or spin away. I had an old email account I used solely for this purpose. I crafted a message with a few damning pieces of evidence, a screenshot of her messages with the guy, timestamps, and little details only she would recognize. The email was scheduled to arrive the morning after she thought she'd finally gotten a break, that she'd scare me into silence. The next day, I watched her open her inbox and see the message. Her face went pale, her hands trembling as she read it. She stared at the screen as if she couldn't believe what she saw. Then she looked around, eyes red and swollen like she was trying to find a way out. "Who sent this?" she whispered, voice trembling. I stepped into the room, calm but cold. "That's what I wanted to show you. The truth. You lied, you cheated, and now you're going to face the consequences." She broke down crying, throwing herself onto the bed. "I didn't mean for it to get this far. I was stupid. I was drunk. Please, I love you." I shook my head slowly. "Love isn't supposed to hurt this badly. You crossed the line, Lisa. And now you've got to deal with the fallout. I hope you remember this moment, because it's the start of the rest of your life without me." As she continued crying, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I'd done what I set out to do. I turned the tables, made her see her actions in the cold light of day. I was finally in control again, even if it meant ending things with her forever. Now, all that was left was the final step. I had one last thing to do, something that would make sure she never forgets what she lost. But for now, I watched her scramble to save herself, knowing that I'd already won. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity after an unforgivable betrayal. And I was ready to follow through. I knew I was close to the end, but I had one last move up my sleeve. I didn't want her to slip away, not without feeling every ounce of what she'd done. The plan was simple but cold, something to make her understand that she lost everything, that there was no coming back from this. I didn't want her to walk away thinking she had escaped scot-free. No, this had to sting. It had to leave a mark. Over the next few days, I kept a steady eye on her. She was spiraling, texts from her friends, frantic calls, crying fits. She tried to reach out, to explain, to ask for forgiveness. But I just played along, acting like I was considering her pleas. Deep down, I knew I'd already made up my mind. I'd spent hours orchestrating this final part. I bought a few things, an envelope, a key, some documents that looked official enough. I wanted her to think she was getting some last chance at redemption, a way to salvage what was left of her life. When the package arrived at her apartment, she opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a folder, a set of keys, and a letter. The letter was cold, precise. I made sure to write it in a calm, professional tone, like I was handing her a legal notice. It read, "Lisa, you thought you could betray me and walk away without consequences. You've lost all trust, all respect. These keys are to the property you've been living in. You're officially evicted. You have 48 hours to pack your things and leave. Consider this the end of everything." My name. I watched her read it, the realization sinking in. Her eyes widened and her hands shook as she clutched the folder. Tears welled up again, but this time they were different, more of a hopeless resignation. She knew I wasn't messing around. I didn't want her to think I was just angry. I wanted her to understand that I was serious, that I'd gone to lengths she couldn't even imagine. I handed her the keys myself, not in anger but with cold finality. She looked at me like I'd punched her in the stomach, but I just said, "You're done, Lisa. Don't come back. If I find out you've been sneaking around again, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. This is over." She tried to say something, but her voice caught in her throat. She looked at the keys, then back at me, desperately searching for some ounce of hope. But I was already walking away, not giving her the chance to beg or plead anymore. As I left her apartment, I felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity. I'd let her go, but I'd made sure she'd never forget what she lost. I wanted her to carry that guilt, the crushing weight of betrayal, deep inside her. The aftermath was messy. She called, texted, even showed up at my place begging for mercy. I ignored her. I blocked her number, deleted her from my social media. I kept my distance, knowing I'd finally cut the cord. It wasn't just about her cheating. It was about her lying, manipulating, and thinking she could get away with it. I sat alone that night, feeling the emptiness settle again, but this time with a strange sense of relief. I'd taken control, even when I was at my lowest. I learned that sometimes the only way to heal after betrayal is to confront it head-on and then walk away, knowing you've done everything you can. This experience taught me one thing: trust is fragile. Once broken, it's incredibly hard to mend. But revenge is about taking back your power, reminding yourself that you're worth more than someone's lies and betrayal. And even if it hurts, even if it leaves scars, you have to be willing to face the pain to truly move on. That's what I'm doing now. moving forward stronger, knowing I've already won the battle, even if the war continues in my mind for a little while longer. After everything, I've had some time to sit down and reflect on what happened. Honestly, it's been a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, relief, and now, finally, clarity. I know I made the right call, even if it was painful. Cutting her out, handing over the keys, sealing that chapter. I needed that closure. It's strange how, after all the chaos, I can finally breathe a little easier. I spent those first few days in silence, just focusing on myself. No calls, no texts, no reminders of the betrayal. I did what I should have done from the start. I prioritized my own well-being. It's not about revenge for revenge's sake anymore. It's about reclaiming myself from the wreckage she left behind. And it's a heavy, sometimes lonely process, but necessary. Looking back, I realize how much I ignored: the red flags, the little things that should have set me off, her secretive phone habits, the way she dodged questions, the nervous glances when things got uncomfortable. They all added up. I was blinded by love, but I see now that ignoring those signs only made me more vulnerable. My advice to anyone reading this who's been betrayed like I was: trust your gut. Don't dismiss the small warnings. They're usually there for a reason. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Because in the end, your peace of mind is worth more than saving face or avoiding confrontation. And don't forget, revenge is a double-edged sword. It might give you a moment of satisfaction, but it comes with its own scars. I don't regret what I did. I needed to do it to regain my dignity. But I also know that moving on means forgiving yourself for the pain you endured. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to let go of the bitterness that can eat you alive. Most importantly, I've learned that life goes on. The world doesn't stop turning just because someone you trusted betrayed you. You have to decide whether to let that betrayal define you or to use it as a stepping stone to something better. For me, I'm choosing the latter. I've started rebuilding, piece by piece, stronger than before. To the next person going through a heartbreak like this, hold your head high. It hurts now, but time does heal. Use that pain as fuel to demand more from yourself, to find happiness that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. Because at the end of the day, your happiness is the only thing that truly matters. And finally, always remember, your self-worth isn't determined by someone else's actions. You are enough, stronger than you think, and no betrayal can take that away unless you let it. So keep moving forward no matter how hard it seems. Trust yourself, love yourself, and never forget you are worthy of respect and honesty always.